Fresno checking in sound. Modesto, can you go?
Modesto check-in.
Thank you. Bakersfield, check in, please. Sound.
Good morning, Bakersfield check-in.
Good morning and welcome to the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Board meeting. We have board members participating in person at our offices in Fresno, Bakersfield, and Modesto. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation via Zoom and webcast. Before we begin, here are some important guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell phone. During the public meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Audio for members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make a public comment. After each agenda item, the chair will announce public comment. The clerk will recognize any public attendee who has indicated they wish to speak. So, Madam Clerk, if we may have a roll call.
Okay, good morning. Mr. Chiesa.
So I am here and Rosa Escutia-Braden just went to move her car for some pre-charging. She is here. For some pre-charging.
Gotcha. Thank you. Mr. Couch.
Here.
Okay, and we know Ms. Escutia-Brayton is here. Ms. Lewis. Mr. McCauley.
Here.
Mr. Mendez.
Here.
Dr. Pacheco-Warner.
Here.
Mr. Pereira.
Here.
Mr. Preciado.
Here.
Mr. Reyna. Mr. Rickman.
Here.
Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Dr. Sheriffs. Ms. Wynn.
Here.
Ms. Shuklian.
Here.
To the chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will ask Mayor Preciado to lead us in that this morning. Okay, our first item is approval of the consent calendar. These items are routine in nature and are usually approved by a single vote. Prior to action by the board, the public will be given the opportunity to comment on any consent item. Do we have any public comment?
Is there any public comment on the consent calendar in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public commenters on this item?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in Fresno who would like to comment on this? Seeing none and none online.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor McCauley and a second by Supervisor Mendez. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Ms. Escutia Brayton,
Aye.
Mr. McCauley,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Preciado,
Yes.
Mr. Reyna. Oh, sorry, Mr. Reyna. Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen,
Yes.
Ms. Shuklian.
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you. Our next item is public comment. This time is made available for comments from the public on matters within the board's jurisdiction. It is requested that no comments be made during this period on agenda items 8 through 11. The public may make comments on these agenda items during the time allowed for public comment on those items. Attention is called to the fact that the board is prohibited by law from taking action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Do we have anybody for public comment?
Are there any members of the public in Bakersfield that wish to comment at this time?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Modesto.
Thank you. Any members of the public in Fresno would like to comment? Seeing none and none online.
We have nobody for public comment this morning? Shh. Public comment is always a good thing. All right, our next item is a report on District Citizens Advisory Committee activities. Mr. Cunha. Don't run. We don't want you to fall and
As one would say, that would never happen, but you can't say that. Good morning, Manuel Cunha, member of the CAC. We spent about 45 minutes at our last CAC meeting determining who was going to be the chair because of an individual member of the city section did not get reappointed up north, but we finally did get a selection of a chair for the CAC, Patricia from Hanford, the mayor. So that took 45 minutes, and then I had the opportunity to have to leave at before 11 o'clock. But we had one item on the agenda, but they went through various parts. And before you, I think the greatest part of discussion as a board that you probably have looked at would be the letter called Miss Brown, that she was had a question about waivers, EPA waivers on the electric forklifts or forklifts. All the other waivers, of course, ARB, and that was in your packet. But the letter that went to Ms. Brown, that was a discussion. ARB is saying it was totally legal and everything they can do. But if you read that letter, it was disheartening. It was absolutely telling us, industry, as well as members of the CAC, but we don't care what you think. We're going to go forward with the waiver. And once we have a different administration, we're going to come back with that rule and then find people that didn't voluntarily into the rule. So if you read the letter, it is pretty obvious. So I was not able to stay because I had to go to an immigration call. But if it was reversed, it would have been quite an exciting CAC meeting if I had to go to the immigration meeting first and then go to the CAC, because it would have not stopped there. I'm very disappointed in my 20-some years with the CAC that has been as a member and who helped put this air district together, to see how this district was treated in that letter and how industry and business, and not even caring what you have done from the chart behind me, has been tremendous. So very disgusting, very disappointing of how the CAC was treated by the California Resources Board from the top down. So I would hope someday that we can try to let the California Resources Board know that rules are rules and you can't break them even as an agency. And to disregard and to disrespect the Miss Brown letter was, like I said, it was bad, but everything before you have quite a bit of agenda, but again, thank you very much. But the CAC is moving and continuing in a positive direction, so thank you.
Thank you, Manuel, and thank you for always being at our defense. Thank you. Okay, our next item is always a highlight of the agenda, and that is our star recognition.
Yes,
Good
good
morning.
morning. Morning, Chair, and members of the board. Adriana Majovich, Director of Human Resources. It is a pleasure to be here this morning with you and an honor to be able to present the following item. As you are aware, recognition is an essential component to the district star culture. So this morning, we'd like to thank and formally recognize employees who have received a service milestone during the first quarter of 2025. We'll be starting in Bakersfield this morning with 5 years of service. Bakersfield.
Good morning from Bakersfield.
Thank you. All right, we have Lawrence Torres, Air Quality Inspector. And Jamie Brownlow, Air Quality Inspector. Is it popping up there?
They're busy working.
I know, they're there at the podium. I believe.
She is busy working today.
Thank you, Marlene. We have Andrea Clark for 10 years of service. We can shoot at the podium. I believe they're there. And there you are. Thank you. And for 20 years of service, we have Jagmeet Kalan, Senior Air Quality Engineer.
All
In
right.
Modesto.
There we go.
Good morning. Thank you. Yeah. All right, moving to Fresno, we have Mungi Han, Senior Air Quality Engineer. Derek Mastis, Network Systems Analyst. Jezebel Manzano, Air Quality Inspector. And Matthew Wiebe, Supervising Accountant. We have for 10 years of service, Jose Gonzalez, Accountant. Kira Taylor, Senior Air Quality Specialist. And Crystal Yunker, Supervising Air Quality and Specialist. Moving to Modesto for 25 years of service. Back to Modesto.
Hi, Adriana.
Lisa Middleton, Supervising Air Quality Inspector. Morning, Lisa. And for 25 years of service, back to Fresno, we have our own Severe Shape. 25 years of service. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. And I think what I noticed is, we have this star culture, and with the leadership of Samir, not just sitting here at your chair, but joining the rest of your employees and getting that recognition. So thank you to all of you for the work that you do. Modesto, Bakersfield, thank you very much. They're shaking hands down there. Boy.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Our next item is to review and provide comment on the 2024 annual report to the community. This is not the one that will go out to the community, but it's a little heavy.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Chair and board members. I'll be walking through this report here with Jamie by my side, Jamie Holt, our Outreach and Communications Officer, to review the draft report and take final feedback before we go ahead and share this really amazing report with the public. Just as a reminder, in terms of the why of this report, as you all know, public accountability and transparency are core values of the board and the district, and really just guide the day-to-day conduct of what we do. And so the purpose of this report is to give residents in the Valley a detailed account of the operations in the prior year. And in contrast to a lot of the reports that you see out there that have a lot of really difficult and kind of hard to understand information. The real goal of this report is to make this information accessible to the public so they can see in ways that are understandable the real work that's going on to improve air quality throughout the valley. This report gets better and better every year. I have to note that it's an award-winning report, and you'll see that noted on the cover page. We actually received a national best practice in air quality management award for this report specifically. And so we take a lot of pride in being able to continually enhance this report. And actually a wonderful idea we had from one of our board members here, Mayor Preciado, we actually make it available both in English and Spanish, which is no small undertaking to be able to provide this level of information in an even more accessible fashion for our residents here. So we do hope this report really just provides that accurate and timely information to residents that are I think very interested in understanding where we are with air quality, progress being made, but also some of the ongoing work that's going on to keep improving air quality throughout the region. So what traditionally we've been able to do with this is quickly walk through the report and just take feedback as we work our way through the report. There really isn't a formal presentation in that, and just by the way, just please feel free to turn on the mic, and as we walk our way through the report, just feel free to jump in and offer any suggestions that you might have. And so I'm actually going to, hopefully everybody has a report out in front of them, and I'll just I'll start with the cover page. I think we have another really amazing image of the valley, and we take a lot of pride in looking really hard at just a variety of images that represents, what we do here in the region, who the region is. And I think once again, I'm really happy with just a really beautiful image there of the valley on the cover page. And then moving on, there's a table of contents, and I'm not going to focus on that. That's something we finalize once the report is truly final after this review. There's a message from me as the air pollution control officer here, kind of outlining the report, the ongoing work, and some of the just real high level thoughts on looking ahead, consistent with the board's conversations around the upcoming standards and working collaboratively with our partners at every level to try to keep moving the ball forward. And I think that's something that is a theme throughout the report, is because I think that that's really what we've experienced and what's worked in the region is collaboration and just working closely with residents, businesses, agriculture, agencies, and our partners at the state and federal level to really find those opportunities for reducing air pollution. Moving on to page 6 and 7, we have some high level information here about the district, its mission, its vision, our budget, and kind of where the funding is at that high level. And really importantly here, what our core values are. And this is something that the board has continuously taken a look at, and we're very proud of living day to day under these core values that the board has put into place. Moving on to pages 8 and 9, what you'll see here is a really strong focus on the public health benefits of improving air quality and just really connecting the major reductions that we've seen in air pollution to the effects of air pollution. And what you're seeing over time is significant benefits, but also highlighting the importance of the work and why we do what we do. And we have seen significant progress. So you'll see on page 9 some higher level conversations around, in this case, highlighting the major milestone that we achieved this last year with PM 2.5. So we now meet the 15 microgram standard. We've worked closely with CARB and EPA. The data is in, and very shortly here we are hoping to see official announcements on that. And as you can see at the bottom of that page, some really dramatic actually reductions in some of the higher kind of impact days when you go back just 20 years to where we are today. You'll see that in those pie charts, and really hopefully effective way of communicating some of that progress that we've seen. Then we do a little bit of a deeper dive on pages 10 and 11. On page 10, what you have is another way of kind of thinking about air quality, where we kind of compare some of the major increases in population, vehicle miles traveled, and then at the same time seeing, even with those increases in population and key metrics like vehicle miles traveled, which is basically how many miles are driven by various vehicles, you're also seeing the number of good days going up dramatically at the same time. And then on the bottom part of that same chart, what you see is air pollution, different levels, different pollutants, and how significant the emissions reductions have been for each of those different pollutants over time, as we've seen population also growing in the valley. Then on page 11, what you have there is a couple of different representations for our summertime key pollutant, which is ozone. So on page 11 at the very top, what you'll see is, again, over time, where we basically were in the valley and where we are as of last year, and that very steep decline in ozone levels from, again, over that 20-year period to where we're making significant progress towards those various standards that you see, those lines on that graph. And then the bottom of page 11 is what we call a heat map, which shows kind of in a color-coded fashion throughout the valley what the ozone concentrations used to be a number of years ago and where they are today, where you're seeing a lot. I mean, the purples and the reds, we're trying to reduce those and turn them into yellows and greens. And you're seeing, again, a dramatic change in those colors as time moves forward. But as you can also see in those charts, still some remaining challenge in parts of the valley. On pages 12 and 13, we focus in, so that was ozone that we just talked about. So pages 12 and 13 focus on PM 2.5, which is the other pollutant of interest and concern that we work on here really hard to reduce. So it is a complicated pollutant. So we spent a little bit of time on page 12 trying to explain, essentially what is PM 2.5 and some of the complexities of it and what contributes to PM 2.5. And then on page 13, is where you see, similar to the previous charts on ozone, you see some really good, I think, representations of where PM 2.5. So I'll start with the top graph there. The orangey kind of column on the far left of that chart is where the valley used to be with PM 2.5 in that 25 to 30 range of micrograms. And then where we are this last year, and you'll see different sites throughout the valley and then different standards, and you'll see that dramatic decrease again from where we used to be with PM 2.5 to where now, as I mentioned earlier, every single location there is below that 15 microgram level, that standard that we just met, which is a major milestone for the valley. And then the bottom part of page 13 are just different pie charts. The first set of pie charts are the winter months and days that have gone over the standards during this really focuses in on the ongoing work to meet the new PM 2.5 standard and the need for research. And the board did take action recently, late last year, to invest to do some seed funding for some of the newer research that needs to happen with the study agency and working with our stakeholders and with CARB and EPA to keep really evaluating, what's next in terms of moving forward. So there's some conversation about that and really just highlighting, the importance of partnerships at the state and federal level is something we work very hard on through the legislative platform, and really just here summarizing some of the funding achievements this last year, both at the state and federal level, and really just urging essentially that same kind of level of partnership moving forward, because it really is difficult to make progress without strong partnerships at those two levels. Moving on to pages 16 and 17, this gets a bit more specifically into the work that we do. Air quality planning is one of the biggest functions of the agency. The board puts into place really comprehensive plans for ozone, PM 2.5, other standards. And so this tries to lay out really, some of the work that goes on. It's very complicated here in the valley, and in general, meeting the Clean Air Act is a very difficult set of requirements, and we do have some pretty difficult challenges here in the San Joaquin Valley. So this really just provides updates on how that planning work went this last year and a couple of those key areas. And then page 17, just a very important chart that describes, as we put these plans together, how are we basically doing relative to achieving the goals that are in these plans. And as you can see there, that we're above target, working with CARB. We achieve emissions reductions beyond our goals, and that's really due to the hard work of those that we work with in the valley, agriculture and others that are working with us to continue reducing air pollution. Moving on now to pages 18 and 19, and this gets a bit more into the measures that your board puts into place. There is, as you can see here, it's really just a snapshot of a couple of the areas that the board has been involved in, everything from industrial kind of efforts to residential wood burning, and a bit here about looking ahead on page 19, some of the rules and strategies that we're working on right now with stakeholders, and just a little bit of an update on some of the upcoming work that's going on with those different measures. Then moving on to pages 20 and 21, we transition over. It's a kind of a big spread on the work that happens with the residential wood smoke reduction strategy that you're about to hear on a little bit more later on. So I won't focus a whole lot here, other than to state that this is a very comprehensive strategy. It's everything from grants to outreach and education to enforcement when we call no burn days. And it's one of those strategies that really only works when you have the Valley public behind it. It's just, education is so important, offering incentives when we can to help folks convert devices. This is one of the strategies where it's an ongoing project and one that we take a lot of pride in continuing to really highlight the importance of this as an area of focus for the Valley. So we kind of lay out some of that here with the stow changeout program. And then moving on to pages 22 and 23, as another area that's been of a major concern and a lot of conversation in the Valley, which is the wildfires that we experience in the region and the health impact of those and what we could do to help residents protect themselves. We talk a lot about that on page 22 and the collaboration that we've put into place to help with everything from land management and fuels reduction with the state and federal agencies to working with residents on air purifiers. Page 23 really gets into some of the work that we do to establish what we call clean air rooms in your homes. And we've actually continued moving the ball forward quite a bit this last year in promoting ways for the public to protect themselves. That goes on, that theme, into page 24, where we talk about another facet of that work, which is the Clean Air Centers network. So we were actually one of a few areas in the state that took advantage of some funding and then worked with local agencies and community centers and others to basically help deploy more of these kind of a commercial scale air purifiers and essentially create a large, and what's hopefully going to continue to become a growing map of places where, if residents just need to get somewhere during the day, can't quite feel comfortable in their home, say during a wildfire episode, where they can actually get some relief at one of these clean air centers. And we're leading the state in this area, and just something that we're really proud of and continue working on. Page 25. So we were actually recognized nationally for our comprehensive wildfire prevention and smoke impact response program. That's the name that we've pulled together. It's actually, you kind of need that kind of name because it is really comprehensive, right? It's everything from education to working with land managers to grants and air purifiers and everything in between. So we got a national award. You see up there, Jess Olson, our former director of community strategies and resources, recently has moved on to a different role, and but she's there nationally accepting that award, and just again something that I think is worthy of highlighting in this report. Pages 26 and 27 really get into, and I know the board is more than aware, you're all very active in this space, but just continuing to look for ways to partner with our Valley farmers to reduce air pollution, to do it creatively and with innovation, with technology. So we kind of get into some of those highlights here on pages 26 and 27, including the nut harvester emission reduction program that your board has put into place, the tractor replacement program, and just ending on the note of collaboration and continuing to look for those opportunities. On that same kind of theme as another major area of partnership with Valley Agriculture, pages 28 and 29 get into the really significant milestone that we met this last year when at the beginning of this year, we now have the phase out of the vast majority of open burning in place. It's a very, very difficult strategy to implement. It's one that we have a lot of gratitude and a lot of appreciation for those out in Valley agriculture who've really had to work hard with us to develop technology, to look at alternatives. And what you'll see in this chart on page 29 is a very dramatic reduction, where you start on the left-hand side of that chart, and you can actually go back even further in time. But I think for the sake of communicating this point, what you see here is in 2017, about 1 million tons or so of materials being open burned, and a very, very steep decline in that amount to where you go to 2022, 2023, 2024, and now in 2025, you're going to see an even bigger reduction in that. You see that massive reduction in open burning across the valley. And then in green, what you see is a massive increase in alternatives to burning. And that's what that green line represents. And so I think that was just a really, really cool way to try to tell that story. Pages 30 and 31 get into other work that we do with communities and residents. Page 30 gets into our redesign website, and I'm happy to report to the board and to the public that all the feedback we've gotten so far, 100% of the feedback has only been positive. More accessible, I think the mobile friendly, just as one example, design of the website, just being able to find things just really quickly on your phone without having to zoom in. And I think that alone, I think was just a major, major milestone along with all the other enhancements. So we highlight that here. And on the next page, on page 31, we talk about all the work that we do in getting into communities and supporting events and sharing information as part of these various efforts. And just, there's just so many great opportunities throughout the Valley to talk about what we're working on here and to also hear feedback from the public about what we could be working on. And so we take advantage of those whenever we can. Page 32 gets into a summary of the inaugural, the first community clean air day. So we actually had an event, a conference, if you will, here in the Fresno community to talk about, and we invited people from throughout the Valley, community partners that we've been working on through these various efforts to come and share their experiences and celebrate the progress that we've made along with CARB and others. And it was just a very well attended event and very well received. And there was a lot of best practices that were being shared. So just a great, and I think something that we definitely want to continue looking at in the future to kind of build off that success. Page 33 gets even more into some of the community partnerships and some of the work that we do, just highlighting things like the electric lawnmower program and the vehicle repair program, where we just work directly with residents that are just looking for assistance on repairing their vehicles or maybe getting rid of that old mower. A really great picture of old mowers there being destroyed, and they all look pretty old. And I don't think anybody's shedding any tears over those mowers there. And then handing out the new mowers there, the electric mowers that are really just well received by residents. And then the grant that we received from EPA, the COPPA program, just highlighting the great work that was done under that grant and partnerships that were built under that grant. Page 34 starts getting even more into some of the community work that we do. So we worked really closely with various communities to do enhanced air quality monitoring in the Valley. And this monitoring the actual monitoring has been community designed. So we work with stakeholders, residents, local businesses, and others to take a closer look at what's happening at the community level. It's been really interesting, I think really informative to residents. It's validated, I think, a lot of the work that this board does. It's really, by and large has been a very kind of educational process and one that continues. As part of kind of that larger program, on page 34, staying on that page for a minute here, you have this really great graphic that shows the major investments that have happened in communities throughout the Valley under the Community Air Protection Program. This is one of those core programs that we've worked with the state to pull together, and just mind-boggling numbers there in terms of the funding expended to date, 275 million, all the different types of projects, just examples of those types of projects. There's actually even more, and then importantly at the bottom there, the really significant emissions reductions that have been achieved with those funds. Then on page 35, we transition over into the ongoing work that we do with healthier living schools, and the kids calendar is kind of a part of that. And you see these wonderful images above of the winners of this last year's calendars. And it is a major effort on our part to continue communicating with schools. They have a lot of questions about how to take advantage of air quality information, how to help keep kids protected when there's wildfires and other impacts. So we actually have, and Jamie, I'm looking for the exact number here. I know it's well over 1,000, but what is the number? It's 1,400 schools that are give or take, plus or minus a very small number, that are part of that program. So it's actually, we have a huge reach actually with that program, and continue enhancing that over time. Pages 36 and 37 get into the I don't even know what word to use, what adjective to use here, but it's over $7.5 billion. It's a very large amount of public-private incentive funding investment that have just really achieved major reductions in air pollution. Page 36 kind of gets at the high level of that accomplishment. Then page 37 gives you some of the highlights this past year. So this was the second year in a row where that combined investment is over $1 billion. So it's 1.04 billion in 2024. That's with a B of total investment between the grant dollars and the match that the partners that we work with bring into those projects, and just highlighting, some of the big examples of those investments. Pages 38 and 39 get into even more about the success of those different grant programs, and just highlighting some of the work. Page 39 gets into some of the innovation happening with the infrastructure and heavy duty truck incentives. Pages 40 and 41 highlight some of the work in the grant program with the alternatives to fireworks, which is nobody's done anything like that. This board has just played a true leadership role in just really encouraging and putting into place, I think, the biggest concentration of non kind of firework based events and shows anywhere. It's just not happening anywhere else. And so we're seeing good interest again in that program, and it's something that we'll keep talking about in the future. We'll keep reporting out on that and see kind of where we want to go even more kind of in that. So we're definitely going to profile that great work that this board put into place. Page 41 gets even more into the clean vehicle programs that we actually developed these programs here in the Valley, and they've now become statewide programs. And so it's just really important to continue advocating for those funds. And what a better way than to show actual results that we see on the ground, and just the happy residents that are able to get into cleaner vehicles and save a lot of money on repair and on fuel. Pages 42 and 43 get even more into some of the other kind of landscaping focused programs that we have. This is actually a major emission reduction opportunity for the Valley, and we keep pushing in this area. So we actually have now a very successful commercial landscaping program. This is one that wasn't easy to launch in the beginning. I think there was a lot of reticence, and technology wasn't quite there maybe at first, and there is quite a bit of technology now available. And we also have a lot of interest in this program from commercial landscapers. So it's one that we want to keep building on, and just wanted to highlight, the in this case, almost $5 million actually that we've encumbered and provided out to landscapers in that program to date. Page 43 gets a bit more into, again, for the public to see, the great options that we have. So if you want to buy lawnmower, some of the rebates that are available to you, and highlighting some of that. Pages 44 and 45 get a bit more into the work that we do with school districts and public agencies to help them support cleaner vehicle transitions. So school buses on page 44, and then page 45 into some of the other work that we do through our public benefit grants program, which is a high demand program, and just been wonderful to see everybody from law enforcement to parks and rec and other agencies just taking advantage of, public works and others taking advantage of clean vehicles as part of that. Page 46 and 47. So now we're in transition a bit into more of the science and the air monitoring that we do here. So page 46 gets into the air monitoring network and the robustness of it. Really just articulating, okay, where do we have samplers and what are they monitoring? Just for public transparency and accountability on that. And then page 47, a bit more about sources of emissions in the Valley, or some of the key pollutants NOx, which is both a PM and ozone contributor, directly emitted PM 2.5, which is part of the PM 2.5 issue, and then VOC, which is one of the ozone contributors as well. And just trying to lay out, we get a lot of questions about where do different emissions come from for different things. So that's kind of the latest and greatest information on that. Pages 48 and 49, we kind of start looking a bit inward here now in terms of the work culture that we have. So page 48 highlights the STAR work culture and what it's all about, and really how it drives everything that we do in terms of providing customer service. And I have a question over here in Fresno.
I'm following your directions. Is that okay?
Absolutely, jump right in.
Okay. So for the I think this page 46 is awesome. And there's a lot of jargon in the descriptions. So even just like a super short description about like what is national core, for example, in the text, I think. But this is awesome because yes, I have had that question many times. So it'll be so great to have this.
I totally see
this map. So thank you.
No, thank you. There's some real estate available on that page, and I think we can definitely try to add a bit more, and maybe even a link or something. Because I think there's a really great information. If you can't quite get it all there, we can link you up to better information as well. But I do think that there's some space here to add a legend and a little bit more to it. So I appreciate that. Yep, that's a great comment. So I think I was on page 49. We have the STAR on page 48, and then some of the work that we do here internally to give back to the community, and highlighting just some of the community service projects that the district staff here have been involved in, and just showing how we're a part of the community, and just are really here to serve and give back to the community. Pages 50 and 51 get into our culture of excellence and the work that we do in different facets of what we do: administrative services, legal, human resources, and workforce well-being, and highlighting the award that we again received last year for our financial reporting, excellence in financial reporting. There, a little call out on that as well. Pages 52 and 53 get into the technology side of what we do, and we do take a lot of pride in continuing to focus in on the latest technology, everything from GIS software and taking advantage of that to the VTC system that we've recently put into place, the cybersecurity audit that the board heard last month, and the work that we do there to keep information protected, just highlighting some of the work that we do there. Pages 54 and 55 get into our permitting work, and there's a lot of pieces to the work that we do with our regulated sources. We have a strong regulatory program, and really just try to highlight at a pretty high level here, kind of different facets of that work, as well as some statistics about how many permits were issued and some of the other key metrics kind of within the permitting sort of fold. Then we have an enforcement spread on pages 56 and 57. Similarly, we kind of lay out what we do to work with our regulated community to do outreach and education and respond to complaints, and a few statistics on page 57 about just the number of inspections that were conducted. So for example, over 34,000 permit units were inspected in this year. So just a lot of effort goes into working with our sources to be in compliance with our regulations, and just want to highlight that work. Pages 58 and 59 get into, again, some of the other facets of what we do with our outreach and communications program, education and social media work, connecting residents to resources and funding and public health partnerships. The theme here is one valley, we get more done. And so we work very closely, for example, with our health directors and officers as part of the Valley Consortium. Every year we interact with them and look for opportunities for enhancing that work that we do. I think I've actually hit the end of the report.
Sorry, Samir. Also, I don't know if it fits in the community piece or in the IT piece, but I think something around how accessible that you continue to do that hybrid piece, and how that continues to help people sort of be involved through Zoom meetings, and
yes, from a community accessibility.
The community accessibility aspect of it all. Yeah.
Absolutely. Can work that in. So that concludes my, I hope, quick summary of the reports. I lost track of time, so thank you for bearing with me. Happy to take more suggestions or questions if anybody has any. And just as far as next steps go, once we get through this review, the plan would be to issue a press release and to make this report available to the public on our website. We would have some printed versions available, and you just let us know if you have events or other opportunities for sharing those. They're actually really nice if you haven't seen them. Really nice, glossy, very, I think, kind of easy on the eyes and a good read actually for anybody who's really interested in air quality. And so that would be the next step. So I'll stop there. I'll turn it over to you, Chair and board members for any additional comments or suggestions you may have.
Okay, our first question or comment is Councilmember Escutia Bratton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Job well done, everyone, Jamie and team. It's, as Samir indicated, it's an easy read. It's heavy data content, but I think what the booklet really, how it translates that heavy data content really well. It's in your little inserts where you articulate factoids with both graphics and numbers. That really helps decipher where the successes are. So kudos with that, because that really, if you don't even have time to read the entire page, focusing in on the factoids really paints a really great picture. So it was well written, well put together, great colors. It's very Central Valley-ish. It really shows the pictures of who we are and who we serve. So congratulations, job well done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rosa.
Thank you. One thing I have to note really quick, just building, kind of bouncing off that response, which I really appreciate. What I should have mentioned this, but we do take advantage of what's the exact term of that? The Adobe technology, or the story
maps.
Story maps. I was thinking storybook, but I knew that was wrong. Esri story map. So when we post this online, and you may have seen some of these before, but you have an ability to scroll through the report, and you can actually call out an image or even have like a little short video. And so as we lay out this report online, it won't just be like a PDF version of it. It'll actually be one that can actually interact with the user, and adds even more, sort of ease to kind of working your way through the story. So it is something that is part of the plan as far as posting it online as well.
Great.
For the first time, yeah. So.
All right. Councilmember Reyna.
Good morning.
Morning.
Excellent report. I love it. I have a question. This is the report that will be printed and will be replacing the one that we passed out last year. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I have a suggestion. It pertains on page 23 and page 27. Could you include some links to on page 23 where people could obtain those air purifiers, and then on page 27 where people can actually view the difference between a new what is this, the harvester, the one that used to pollute a lot and the new one that doesn't pollute as much. I think a visual will help for people to actually have an understanding of the big difference that it makes. And so that may be something that can be done throughout the report where feasible, where people can actually access it online and have a different perspective other than just the beautiful pages that were put together. So that is my suggestion. Is that possible?
Yeah, no, that's definitely possible, and we will look at that, not only in that one area, which I actually think there is maybe a link on that page, but I think there are maybe some other opportunities for other links, and we actually have some really cool graphics on the harvesters as well as tractors that kind of show, like the base project or the old tractor and the new one, and so we can and there's some room in that page, so I think we can actually work on that too. So thank you for that.
Thank
Good
you.
suggestion. Thank you. Dr. Sheriffs.
Thank you. Another great report. Puts public health up front, first sentence, which is what we're about. It's got what we do. It's how the public can help accomplish this, how agencies can help accomplish this, and good information for individuals about how to protect themselves. A lot of information because the district does a lot. It's got its fingers in a lot of responsibilities and projects and very complicated. It's a great distillation of what goes on here. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other board comments or questions. Can we open it up for public comment?
Are there any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments?
No public comments in Modesto.
Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none and none online.
Okay, I just want to say this is not an action item, but thank you. Thank you also for being so open to the suggestions of the board members to add to this. And, you know, in these times when we talk about, you know, abuse and waste and fraud and all that, it's nice to see, as council member Rosa said, you know, the factoids. And I like the fact that we have a lot of money going into these programs, but we also have the numbers to back those robust incentives in showing the reduction and the, you know, improvement in our air quality. So I appreciate that. And I also like the fact, you know, I see in this and also like our commercials and whatnot, using real people to tell the stories of how the Air Board has helped them. So thank you for the work on this. Okay.
To the chair, just wanted to
Yes.
make it known on record that
Councilwoman Lewis.
Councilmember Lewis, Councilmember Reyna, and Dr. Sheriffs have all joined the meeting.
Welcome. Thank you. All right, we will move on to item 10, which is a verbal report regarding status of vacancies in recruitment and retention. Oh, what? 9. Oh, I crossed out 9. Okay. I didn't want to really hear about that today.
All right.
So I just, you know, as chair, I figured I could do that. No. Okay, I apologize. 9, discussion and next steps on residential wood smoke reduction strategy and report.
All right, thanks for the chance to talk about this. Appreciate it. John Klassen, Director of Air Quality Science, and I'm joined by Jamie Holt, Chief Communications Officer, and we'll start up this overview of this last winter season. So as we know, wood burning can have a big impact on human health. There's a lot of research involved in this. It can cause lung disease issues, decrease in lung function for children, hypertension, cancer, heart failure, neurological effects, and these emissions are one of the largest sources during the winter season in the San Joaquin Valley. And these emissions are happening where people are living in neighborhoods. In the evenings, we often can have temperature inversions, which can compress those emissions even further to the surface where people are living in their homes. So this is a really important strategy that we put together each year. And this strategy has been very successful over the years. It's one of our lowest implementation costs. We get big reductions of PM 2.5 through this program. And like I mentioned, this is happening right in neighborhoods where people are living with their families. And this strategy has really helped to reduce direct PM 2.5 and PM 10. That's led to us attaining a number of air quality standards that we list here on this slide. We attained the PM 10 standard a number of years ago. We attained the 24-hour 65 microgram standard just a few years ago. And then just through the year 2024 data, we've now attained the 15 microgram annual PM 2.5 standard, and we're continuing to make progress towards the other PM 2.5 standards that are still in front of us. So just a few tidbits here of the progress we made over this past winter season. We had low average concentrations of PM 2.5 throughout the Valley's counties. We're continuing to be in attainment of that 24-hour standard of 65 micrograms, which is great that we're continuing that. Specifically for the month of November, we had the lowest number of days during that month when we exceeded the 35 microgram 24-hour standard. And comparing that to the past Novembers, that's a 97% improvement compared to what it used to look like in the past. For the month of February, we had 0 exceedances of that standard for the second year in a row. So last winter season, we had 0, and then this winter season, we had 0, which is great to see that continuing trend. And then if you look across all the Valley's counties over the entire winter season, this last winter season, 93% of those days we were meeting that federal daily 24-hour standard of 35 micrograms. So just a few of those peak numbers were pushing us over, but the vast majority of the winter season, we were meeting that standard. And then we've continued to see an increase in the good and moderate air quality index days. I'll show a graphic of that in just a few minutes. And our speciation analysis, looking at different trends of organic carbon, ammonium nitrate, and others, are showing that those key components are continuing to stay lower compared to what we've seen in the past. So this is the 6th winter season that we've implemented the strategy, where our rule changed in 2019 to set up the hotspot counties of Madera, Fresno, and Kern. So they have lower curtailment thresholds that we show in this graphic on the left. And that new strategy also brought in new public education incentives, program enhancements, and then other requirements within the rule we put together at the same time. So this is the 6th winter season we've been implementing this. And then showing in this table here, this is a count of the number of no burn declarations for the counties across this last winter season. So at the very bottom of this table in blue, that's the 24-25 winter season. Then above that, we show the count of curtailments for all the previous winter seasons for about the past 10 years. So you can see that overall on the bottom right-hand side, the total number of curtailments we had for this past winter season was a little bit less than last year. So pretty close, but a little bit better as far as the number of curtailments that we called across the Valley's counties. So I talked about the air quality index, so I wanted to talk about this for a minute. So this shows all the different air quality index days for good, which is green, moderate, which is yellow, and unhealthy for sensitive groups, which is orange, and then unhealthy and above is red. So green and yellow, these are days where we're meeting the standard. Orange and red are days above the standard. So if you go all the way to the left-hand side of this slide here, you can see back when we first started to measure PM 2.5 in the Valley, that's the 1999-2000 winter season. Almost half the days were orange or red, which is not good. And then as you progress in time and go to the right, you see those days becoming less and less frequent. And then those green and yellow days becoming more and more frequent, where now in recent winter seasons, almost all the days are green or yellow, just a small portion that are orange or red over the standard. We did change this up a bit, where if you see that hashed green bar in this chart, that is the number of good days we used to have under the previous AQI scale. Under the previous PM 2.5 standard. Since the new standard came out for 9 micrograms, EPA lowered that threshold between yellow and green. And so now that solid green bar is what we have now for good days compared to what it used to be under the old scale. So overall, the trend is still increasing. It's just the total number of days looks a little bit different between green and yellow compared to what this used to look like. If we focus specifically on that first winter season back in 1999-2000, on the left-hand side of this, this shows there were way more unhealthy days than good days across the Valley's counties, which is not good. Then fast forward about 25 years, this last winter season, now it's the exact opposite. There are way more good days than unhealthy days. So a massive change has happened in air quality in the San Joaquin Valley during the wintertime over this 25-year period. And then comparing specifically the number of exceedances of the 35 microgram standard many years ago versus more recent years, this table does that comparison. So the top part of this table, we show an average of the number of exceedances we used to see across the Valley's counties for different months of the winter season. So for example, the top left-hand side in November, looking at an average of the previous winter seasons before our 2019 rule amendment, we used to see about 76 days among the Valley's counties when we exceeded that standard, and then 86 days in December, 76 in January, and so forth. And then right below there, that's an average of about the past 5 or 6 winter seasons for the number of curtailments across the Valley's counties. And you can see those numbers are much lower than what we used to see. Then the very bottom, we show a percent change of the past versus more recent seasons. So a 63% drop in exceedance days in November, 58% drop in December, 76% drop in January, 83% drop in February's, and overall it's about a 67% drop in exceedance days across the Valley's counties in the past compared to recent years, which is great to see that change. Looking a little more specifically at how effective this strategy has been, we've looked at this before and we updated this. So on the right-hand side is a graphic showing the average PM 2.5 across the valley right before rule amendment and then right after. So those dashed lines represent different periods in time when we changed our rule and changed our strategy. And you can see it was pretty interesting that each time after we amended the rule, amended our strategy, the next winter season was a little bit cleaner. And we've seen that each time we've done this. We also enhanced this a bit to try to break down the month's influence on that overall season average. So you can see the different patterns there for November, December, January, February. We wanted to point out, if you look all the way on the left-hand side, all of those months pretty much influence the average of the overall winter season pretty evenly. You can see November and February still played a pretty big role in influencing the average for the season. And if you go to the right-hand side, we're seeing that become a less and less of an influence, where November and February aren't influencing the average as much. They're getting cleaner and cleaner. And then it's really December and January that are becoming the 2 months that are left that continue to be more of our peak PM 2.5 season. So we're seeing that shrink over time. And that's a really good indication of changing air quality and conditions improving. We've seen that for the ozone season. We used to have a much larger ozone season when we had peak ozone decades in the past. And now that's really shrunk down to just a few months during the ozone season. So we're starting to see that same effect here during the winter season, which is a really good indication that things are changing. And we wanted to show this as well. This focuses on the time of day when we see peak PM 2.5 concentrations. We looked at this last year when we updated this. So on the bottom here, we show the time of the day. So starting at 6 p.m., going over the middle of the night, all the way to 6 a.m. That very top line there, that dark brown line, that is back in the 2002-2003 winter season. And you can see how much higher that average was during the winter, the evening time, getting to 40 and 50 micrograms on average during the overnight hours. And then as you go forward in time, you see that progressively getting lower and lower until that very bottom blue line is an average of the more recent years. So we're seeing that line come down where that peak really isn't there anymore. And the shape of this is also changing, where it's not only decreasing, but it's flattening out, showing us that signature of a lot of burning that used to happen 20 years ago is changing, where we're not seeing that really sharp evening peak that we used to see in the past. Just a few notes on the meteorology that we saw over this past winter season. It was an alternating pattern of good dispersion and bad dispersion, storms coming through, and then high pressure for a while. The strongest period of high pressure and poor dispersion we saw was about the beginning of December to the middle of January. So that period made it challenging for us. And our stability peaked about December 7th when we saw very high pressure. And that's when we had our peak PM 2.5 concentrations during that period. And just looking at the atmospheric stability for each month of the winter season, that solid blue bar there, that is this past winter season for the different months of the year. So the higher this bar is, the worse it is for air quality. It can create a very stable atmosphere and the pollutants can get trapped here. So if you look at the different months of the year, November was a little better than the average that we've normally seen. That's the hash bar. That's an average over the past 5 winter seasons. December and January were more stable than what we normally see. So that was a very challenging time period. Then February was about what we normally see for the winter season. And then I wanted to compare this as well with average PM 2.5. So this chart here shows the blue bars here are the average atmospheric stability per winter season from 1999-2000 on the left-hand side all the way to the current winter season on the right. And as you can see, on the right-hand side here, that's the current winter season that we just saw. So you see the average stability there, that blue bar was more than what we saw the past couple of years. So it was more stable, more difficult for PM 2.5. And then you see the average concentration of PM 2.5, which is the green line there going through time. If you look on the left-hand side to this next blue bar, that 2019 to 2020 winter season, the average atmospheric stability was about the same as what we saw this winter season, but the average PM 2.5 was a little bit higher. And if you go to the left-hand side a bit more, we find another winter season, 2014-2015, about the same average atmospheric stability, but then our PM 2.5 level continues to climb as we go back in time. Another example here in 2006, 2007, similar atmospheric stability, even higher PM 2.5. And then lastly, I'll highlight 2000, 2001, about the same atmospheric stability, but our average concentration back then was nearly 40 micrograms during the season, when on the right-hand side, we're closer to 15 to 20 under similar meteorological conditions. So this is a really powerful way to look at how much has changed here over time, even under similar weather conditions in the past. And then lastly, the last slide I'll share here before kicking it to Jamie. As I mentioned, we continue to look at the trends of key components of PM 2.5, ammonium nitrate in blue here, and organic carbon in orange. These are the two biggest components we see during the wintertime, and we're continuing to see a decline here, comparing the past versus more recent seasons, which is really good that we're seeing this decline continue. And I'll go ahead and pass it to Jamie to give us some more details of our incentive and outreach strategies.
Our wintertime wood burning and wood stove program is really multifaceted. It has a lot of different elements to it. And as John said, it really is one of the most cost-effective strategies that we have here in the district. A key part of that is our fireplace and wood stove changeout incentive program. It's been in existence for going on almost 20 years, about 15 years. During this last calendar year, we issued over 2,000 vouchers for folks to take their old wood burning, either fireplace or stove, and replace it with a newer, cleaner device of their choosing, working with one of our over 70 retailer partners up and down the valley. During the winter season alone, there were nearly 1,000 vouchers issued for about 3.5 million awarded through that program. And since 2009, over 31,000 vouchers were issued and nearly $70 million awarded. It's a really great program. It also has a low income component. So if you are low income, you will receive a little bit more funding. And these are small businesses in our communities who are retailer partners. Anyone that wants to be a partner, they talk to us and we'll get them into the program and sign the appropriate paperwork and then work with their community to make sure that they have this as an option for folks throughout the valley. Outreach is a key part of this program. We, over the last few years, have really emphasized the health impacts of wood smoke through a program message that says, protect public health, please avoid wood burning. And we really try to drive home that when we all notice it, when you're using a wood burning device, especially if you're in an urban neighborhood where you're living fairly close to your neighbors, if someone's using that wood burning device, you walk outside and you can smell it. If you have any type of health allergies, COPD, anything like that, you can feel it. We really want folks to understand that this is helping not only the valley as a whole, but your neighbors, and then of course your family. We also, through our outreach, really kind of double down on those periods of stagnation that John was talking about. When we do have maybe the week or two during the winter, when we really expect air pollution to deteriorate, that's when we're ramping up our press releases. We're on the evening news. We're doing a little bit more social media outreach. We want folks to understand that there are actions that they can actually take on a daily basis to reduce these emissions and avoid those adverse health impacts. We want them to take advantage of the grant program, and we really have a variety of different outreach strategies through paid. That's our more traditional advertising. Earned, that's when we get press coverage. We're on the evening news, or maybe people are talking about one of our social media posts. And then we have what's called owned media. These are our website, our app, our social media platforms. We do a variety of things. We do invest in traditional bilingual advertising, and at times we widen that to multiple languages. That includes network TV, that's your ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, cable TV that's really targeted at maybe an HGTV home show or maybe some type of sporting event. And then we do outdoor billboards in neighborhoods where we think folks will actually have wood burning devices. We have a big social media presence. I know many of you are aware of it. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Nextdoor. We do digital advertising. This is that kind of more new media that's out there that includes social media advertising that's pushing our commercial to the streaming services like, oh goodness, there's so many, Hulu, the Firefox products, making sure that our commercials also come up on those programs as well. And then we do search engine marketing. If you go in and say you're searching, you're going to look at Home Depot for a gas insert, you know what? You're going to see our ad pop up as well saying, oh, you're looking for a gas insert. Why don't you look at maybe taking our program and we can disable your wood burning fireplace. We have the smartphone application, which I mentioned, and we do a lot of direct work with our Valley weather reporters and our meteorologists. These are the statistics for this last winter season. We received more than 30,000 public inquiries through our 1-800 smog info line. We received over 230,000 visits to our district residential wood smoke reduction page. We received over 250 public complaints for suspected wood burning activity, and we made over 37 million impressions across all of our platforms. This is just an example of some of our outreach, billboards, social media. We try to mix it up, multiple languages, so that folks are getting our messages more than once on different platforms in ways that hopefully it begins to make an impact. We do have a compliance side to this. In addition to the extensive education and incentive work we do, in the past season, we had staff spending nearly over 3,300 staff hours on proactive monitoring and complaint response. We issued over 380 notices of violation for this past season. When you get a notice, we don't go on your property, we don't knock on your door, but what happens is you'll get a penalty from us. It's $100, but if you come to our ever so exciting smoke school, you can get that cut in half. And I will say it's just a great way for us to dialogue with folks. When folks do get a penalty, often we see them go into the grant program. We utilize low light imaging technology. It's designed to work in environments, maybe in the middle of the night, so we can see that smoke coming out of your chimney. And it's really all a part of making sure that folks are aware of the program. They understand that there is support for them to change out their device and really get them to comply with the program moving forward. Looking ahead, we continue to work closely with the public to educate them not only about why we need to do this more kind of district-wide to improve air quality, but also about the public health benefits that they will see if they reduce their wood burning. We continue to do outreach to the grant program so that all Valley residents are aware of the different facets of that grant program. Part of it that I forgot to mention is that we do give an incentive for electric heat pumps, which is great. If someone wants to go in and totally take out their fireplace and put in an electric heat pump, we'll incentivize that. If someone wants to go in and just remove their fireplace, they want to disable their fireplace and, I don't know, turn it into, some little art piece, we'll give them a small amount of money for that. We're constantly looking at new research. John's team's really looking at where our PM 2.0 levels are coming from and what strategies related to wood burning can we take to address that. And then moving forward, there'll be enhancements to our Rule 4901 as part of the strategy and within the current attainment plan that we have. For the 2012 PM 2.5 standard, there's actually a workshop coming up at the end of this month. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
We have any questions? Supervisor Mendez.
Obviously, I always have comments, not questions, but
Because you have all the answers, right?
I wish I did. I always get a kick out of you when you give a presentation because you are so technically orientated and you love a lot of statistics and you know how to interpret them. And the funny thing is I can see the gleam in your eye when you're doing it. So I know you're enjoying it. But this is always, you hit on it like on page 12 of your presentation. This is always about weather. So you have what we're doing to try to clean the atmosphere, but then you've got weather that works against it. So your big test is usually in January and December of any given year, provided it's not an extremely wet year where you've got a lot of mix up in the atmosphere and you don't have that problem. So that was the last 2 years because we didn't have, they were average to slightly below average wet years, years of rain. We actually did good. Now, being an older person, I can still remember in the especially the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that we would get a inversion, and was not uncommon in places of value. You wouldn't see the sun for a month. And we don't see that happening anymore. So that's nature's test against what we're doing. So, I always enjoy you giving presentations, and I really enjoy your enthusiasm.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Lewis.
I'm using this microphone because I've got a post here that I'm stuck in between. But on the incentive portion of the program, I know it's some of it's based on income qualification, and then you have a portion, I believe, that's not based on income qualification. When we're presenting this information to the public on our website, do we have a ability to break it down as to what the income levels are and what you can get, so that people will know exactly what portion they may be entitled to?
We do. We have a fancy little chart on our website under our grants page that actually walks you through, because there's a couple of different kind of, I guess, things we need to consider. Do you have an open hearth fireplace? Do you have a wood burning stove? Are you in a hotspot community? Are you not in a hotspot community? Are you low income? Are you not low income? And are you moving to an electric heat pump, a gas burning device, or in some of our areas where there is not access to piped in natural gas? We do have a very small incentive, and these are usually our mountain communities, where we will incentivize a EPA certified wood burning device. We still do a very small amount of those. And we have a chart that folks can go to and say, I'm in this county, I have this type of device that I'm getting rid of, I want to get this new type of device, and these are the different incentive levels I can get.
And then on the income portion, does it break it down specifically as to the groups?
It's basically, are you in or you out of what we call low income? And
so how does someone know whether
there's a variety of different basically documents that they can provide? It's usually just one document that tells us that they are in that low income kind of group. And it can be, are you getting some type of public assistance? Are you on the PG&Es? I forget what it's called, their care program. Thank you. So we just need something that proves you're in the low income kind of pool.
Okay.
The good thing too is that our retailer partners, they love this program, and they walk folks through it. For our low income folks especially, it is a discount at the time of sale. So if someone who is not low income goes in, they're going to fill out the paperwork, they get a rebate check from us down the road after the device has been installed. But if you are low income, we assume you don't have the credit card or whatever to put that cash up front. So it is a time of sale discount for our low income clients.
Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Robinson.
Just a thank you to Samir and staff. Just last week, I was working with a gentleman. He's installing some windows for me. And so he had these concerns about wood burning stoves. And so thank you, Samir. You reached out to staff and were really cooperative at helping him to navigate the system, to answer some of the questions that were just asked. And so I'm told there'll be some sort of incentive for him, but I just appreciate the prompt response and assistance from staff.
Dr. Sheriffs?
Thank you. We love this program. There's incredible bang for the buck in terms of the emission reductions we get for the dollars invested. It's a great value. It's a huge public health value, because that direct PM 2.5 is the biggest public health problem in terms of health effects. So it's so great to be on the forefront of lowering that kind of emissions. My question related to the heat pump issue, and I will always be a digital tourist. I will never be a native speaker. I went to the website and the electric heat pump is, yes, it's right there tied to this program. And that was my question. Part of background of that is because there's so many benefits if people would choose a heat pump over any of the other solutions. What do we have that helps them make that right choice, both for them economically, but also for the valley in terms of the public health benefits if they move all the way?
That's a great, through the chair, just a quick response to that. Yeah, that's a great question. I think what we've seen is that this last year, there was increased interest in heat pumps. It's still in the valley and in many parts of the country, not necessarily the first option that somebody would consider. It's definitely a lot costlier. And so what I think needs to happen into the future is a growing kind of relationship with the contractors that provide the solutions. And there's more of them now, by the way, like when you deal with HVAC companies, and you might have already seen also some advertisements and, like, especially with some of the funding and tax credits that were made available. And I'm not sure, I think that one of the big questions here into the future is going to be, as the federal programs transition under the new administration, kind of where all that lands and whether or not there's enough value, in moving over to a heat pump. There is some energy efficiency value. If there's enough value to basically, continue communicating that in a way that resonates with residents, right? It's very expensive, and we all know affordability is a major concern in the valley. And so it's not the first option, just because you're basically doubling your cost in many cases, if not more, because of the electrical infrastructure, other things that have to go into it's not just the cost of the heat pump. Sometimes you have to upgrade your entire, breaker box and wiring and all the other stuff that goes along with it. So I think what we've been interested in doing, and we have been engaging, is having a growing partnership with contractors so that we can kind of jointly maybe find better ways to communicate that value. And so that is something I think is still kind of a to-do for us as we kind of think ahead to technology, but also in an environment where you're losing incentives potentially into the future as well, like on the sort of on the federal side. I'm not sure where all those are going to be. So you have to show even more value potentially in the future, even beyond what the current baseline is. And it's very challenging because it is very expensive to go to heat pumps. There's a reason why it's not the first option or second or third for most people.
And just to piggyback on that, we do have that great commercial of Connie Young. We do some very specific targeted swap out your heat pump outreach as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for highlighting the complexities of doing this, but it also, I think, reminds us, but we need to keep, it's complex, but we need to keep pushing in that direction and thinking about ways to help make that kind of thing happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Pereira.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to your team, Samir. This is one of those items that impacts the direct neighbors. And anyway, so I appreciate that. A couple of questions. Jamie, do you know how like the Valley Can, we do the tune in, tune up programs. You do outreach or events like that at the retailers?
We do. We have done a variety of different events. We've been to home shows on occasion. We've been at retailers doing open houses. But what we found that tends to work the best is when we give the retailers, and we're about to order another kind of package of them, a variety of point of sale POS tools, point of sale tools. They include signage, in-store signage, tabletop signage, handouts for employees, so that anyone that walks in to have this conversation with, the many retailers we have up and down the valley, they're going to be hit with the Air District messages and our wood stove and fireplace change out program. Having said that, we are always looking for opportunities. My staff, especially this month, seems to be out in the world on a regular basis. So if you have an idea for some event that makes sense for us to be at, we would love to be out there.
Yeah, I would think like, either open houses at retailers and, to get more people to come in right on a specific day. But anyways, I'll keep that in mind. And then the other, I don't know, I guess it's a suggestion. You mentioned that when somebody searches for a gas insert, they get a pop-up of our ad. Have you thought about doing that when people are searching to buy firewood?
We actually have about 100 words that we put into the search engine marketing program. And I will tell, I'm not like John. I'm not the technical person on this. I just say, hey, here's 100 different words. Firewood, fireplaces, wintertime air quality, poor air quality, gas inserts, heat stoves, heating my home, HVAC companies. So we have all of these words that we put in, and we work with our contractor to make sure that when you go in and you search certain things, that it will pop up and you'll see our advertising. But yes, those that we are definitely looking, and every season I review that long list, and there's always a couple new things that we think, oh, you know what, that'll be a good idea to add this to it.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for your work.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, thank you, Samir, and your team for a great report. The outreach, and it looks great and it's effective. I can tell you that I hear from my constituents. And also on page 20, I was wondering if I could get a signed original of the chair of her picture.
Absolutely.
Is that possible?
I have headshots out in the car. I'll get those after the meeting.
I
and
thought
send it
there
to you.
might be a cost though, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm sorry. Got me all flustered there, Robert. Thank you, Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Yeah, thank you. I first wanted to just emphasize to the public to really try to make that workshop on April 30th, and it is on our handy dandy new website in the front homepage, the calendar, April 30th, 4 p.m. And it is, as I understand it, also available on Zoom. So I think that's a great opportunity for folks to continue to be engaged in this topic. I did want to return to the question around heat pumps, just because I know that, that the district has been so critical in helping our Valley folks, whether it's industry or residents, bring the new technology. And I know that there is a lot of new technology that folks are trying to bring over from Europe into this space here. And for those of you that are not aware, that's an important market because Europe is so far ahead in heat pumps. They're actually implementing industrial level heat pumps. So I think that there's some good opportunity there to see what technology exists, especially because I think there might be confusion for people about what incentives are available this year, because there are incentives available this year. So I don't want people to not think that. And it is such a good opportunity to get in now. When I look at the CEC website, I see contractors that are specialized in this from Stockton to Bakersfield. So there are contractors up and down the valley that are familiar with this technology, and I hope that we can continue to take advantage of that. Thank you.
Supervisor McCauley.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the team for the report. Just want to throw my mountain hat on really quick and just remind everybody that, in areas where we don't have good access to electricity, heat pumps isn't really an option. And I understand that, there's some restrictions on funding and requirements to tear out, old fireplaces, but, any opportunity to, look to create some exceptions in that program in the future to allow for folks to possibly keep their fireplace if they're, not in an area where they have good access to power, I think would be a good way to get more of this technology out the door in those areas where really I think there's probably more smoke impacts to the community than here in the valley. When I drive down here during the winter time, you can really see the smoke, especially down in the basin in Oakhurst, and it's, it definitely impacts the community. I know it is kind of a smaller section of, the air district, but For me, it's obviously an important one. And I think, again, if we can create some flexibility in the program in the future, I think it would go a long way. So.
Thank you. Mayor Preciado.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. So, we're looking at options between wood burning and probably the heat pumps. But is there something in the middle? I know they have some pellet fireplaces. What are those considered? Like low pollution or what's the technology there?
That's a great question. So there's different kind of levels of, so there's what's called certified wood stoves. That's one type of device, and there is a reduction from those. You get more reduction from a certified pellet stove. So there are pellet stoves as well that are more efficient, and you actually get an even greater reduction from those relative to uncontrolled sort of fireplace. Then there's natural gas, which is it's actually been the type of technology of most interest in the past. Getting out of wood altogether and getting into natural gas. There is some combustion that happens with natural gas, so there is some level of continued, but there's a nearly 100% reduction in wood smoke, wood burning kind of emissions. So there's still a huge reduction in going to natural gas. And then there's heat pumps, or another tip. I mean, if you eliminate your wood burning device just altogether, and you just use your home furnace, there's some combustion that likely happens there as a natural gas, say, furnace, but you still again eliminated basically, so the heat pump, the added benefit of the heat pump is the reduction in having a combustion furnace in your home doing your heating. That's the added benefit of a heat pump, right? You still get, just eliminating your wood burning device alone actually eliminates almost all your wood smoke. And then you get this extra benefit of, if you go to a heat pump beyond, say, having so there is an added benefit, but that's the extra benefit. Just want to be kind of clear on different technologies and what they provide.
And by saying that, will be there the possibility in the future to work with, with an incentive for, I don't know, the monthly bills that is sometimes so expensive for the heat pumps? Would there be like, I don't know, something to think about?
A really great point. And that's why I think, just a quick comment to the chair. I mean, I think that's why it's important for there to be, options, but then also great outreach, like Dr. Pacheco-Warner and Dr. Sherris were talking about. I think we need to continue growing that sort of messaging, on emerging, and actually it's here, right? Heat pumps it's not emerging even. It's actually a technology that's available and proven. So I think we keep outreaching that, but we also have to be very, very, and I hear the board loud and clear on this. Affordability is a major concern. So I mean, you have to make sure the incentives are there, federal level, local level, and that the people really know, like how much value they get back on those, because utility prices are only going up, and there are major concerns that we hear about on that front on a variety of levels. So we do have to be kind of cognizant of that as we think about different options and what we may want to fund.
Okay, Supervisor Robinson.
Jimmy, just a quick question about the incentive. So if you, I know there's a matrix and everything that's associated, but if you were a low income person, and we know the heat pumps are pretty expensive, what kind of percentage are we talking about in terms of incentive? Just a roundabout.
It really depends. You can get up to $5,000 from us for a heat pump. Your cost on a heat pump can be $8,000. I actually put heat pumps in a low garage apartment for $8,000 to orders of magnitude greater than that. So it really does depend, but our incentive level goes up to $5,000 for a heat pump as of the way it stands right now.
All right. If there are no more questions from the board, I will entertain public comment.
Okay, are there any members of the public in Fresno that wish to comment on this? We do have one coming up to the podium.
Okay.
Good morning, Manuel Cunha, Nisei Farmers Lake. Great presentation. Yes, between the two, one very technical, and then one knowing how to get to the public in the public relations. Great presentation. Just for an example for this board to understand, Some of you have been to our buildings over at the airport. We have 10 in the complex, 10 buildings. One of my buildings has 7 air conditioning units, natural gas. And we have another building now that we have purchased. And in that building had 5 plus 1 air conditioning units of natural gas. They were put in 1983. So you can see the heat and the structures is definitely broken down inside the units just because whatever. So we were going to go with heat pumps. So we went to the company, and a cost of a natural gas air conditioning unit, 3 ton, 2.5, 3 ton, was $17,000. The electric heat pump was $32,000 for one unit. Now, okay, now I look at my electrical cost of what PG&E is charging today, out of control. And for us then to put solar on our buildings, we can't because the structures are not designed, built in 83. Fantastic buildings, great buildings. So the heat pump market is definitely holding us all hostage for something that could be a benefit. But PG&E and Edison and others, excuse the expression, this is my term, they're the crooks. Okay, this isn't coming from this board or from the, but it's me of what I see. So it discouraged us immediately because of that cost. But I would have loved to have gotten rid of, I've seen what our electric gas units looked up on the roof, the burners, all the metal that has been corroded, burned up because the heat of metal just kind of has to break down. It just has to. So I would hope that we can someday have an electric heat pumps that are very affordable. And we also have a utility that's not out of control from the PUC or any of that. It's absolutely cost prohibitive. So, but thank you. Great job, great presentation. Whatever we can do for the wood stove concept of cleaning up, that you have done a tremendous program on that. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel.
Any other members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? Seeing none and none online. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Modesto, do you have any public comments on this item?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. No further comments.
All right, thank you, folks. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify my remarks for the record. I am not saying we need to make a regulation to obligate everybody to switch over to heat pumps. I am saying that there is an opportunity for those who it makes sense to. And I actually experienced a family member who recently from a long trusted air conditioning company got recommended to it because it would be cheaper for them because they already have solar, because they live in the city, because and their bill was actually cheaper. Their month-to-month bill in terms of what they were using before. It doesn't make sense for everybody, but it is ready for some people, and it will be more cost efficient this year for some people. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is it for that item, and we will now move on to item 10, which is a verbal report regarding status of vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts.
Hello again. Thank you. Adriana Majovich, Director of HR. Yes, this morning we'd like to provide a verbal report on the status of our vacancies, including our recruitment and retention efforts per Assembly Bill 2561. So a little bit of background on this bill. It was signed by Governor Newsom on September 22nd, 2024, that amended part of the MMBA, Myers-Milius-Brown Act. AB 2561 added government code section that requires public agencies to present the status of their vacancies, including recruitment and retention efforts, during a public hearing before the governing board at least once per fiscal year, prior to the adoption of the budget. There are some specific regulations associated with this bill as well. One of them being if a particular bargaining unit has a vacancy rate that exceeds that of 20%, there is some additional information and reporting that must be conducted. So In conducting analysis for our vacancy rate, we broke it down into the following. So we have the following unit structure. We have the number of budgeted full-time equivalent positions in each, and then the number of vacant positions associated with that unit and the corresponding percentage. So as of March 31st, 2025, we kind of took a snapshot. We had a total of 369 budgeted FTEs, 19 of those which were vacant, which reflects an overall 5.1% vacancy rate. So looking at that, we had to take a look at what was driving those numbers, including our employee retention trends and the key reasons for those vacancies. So therefore, we broke it into the following. We had one vacancy that occurred, for instance, due to staffing growth, new budgeted position. We have a 19.5 vacancies due to internal opportunities. So we took all of our internal promotions, transfers, whether that's within a department or region. We had attrition, which included retirements and involuntary separations, resulting in 9 vacancies there. And then an overall, we looked at turnover, voluntary separations, 24, a number of vacancies there. Incorporating our 369 budgeted FTEs, the calculation resulted in an overall annual staffing turnover of 6.5%. So taking into account those factors and reviewing our vacancy rates, retention rates, we shifted our focus as to how we have successfully filled those vacancies and how we have recruited for those vacancies, and looking at what we will continue to do for moving forward for our recruitment strategies. So we looked at 2024 overall, using again the same unit structure. We had number of recruitments in each, the number of applications that we received, and then the number of vacancies we filled in each of those units. And we had a total of 35 recruitments that we opened for the year. 7 of those recruitments were promotional, meaning internal candidates only could apply. And then 28 were open, meaning internal and external candidates applied. We received 1,612 applications for the year and were able to fill 56 vacancies. We have multiple recruitments. As you can see that we're able to fill, multiple vacancies we're able to fill maybe for one recruitment due to the number of positions available. So as part of how we were able to obtain these numbers and number of applications, we reviewed kind of our recruitment and advertising strategies and how these numbers attracted a strong candidate pool. That we included some sample recruitment materials that were also used last year. Our recruitment process really includes a diverse range of advertising channels tailored to the specific requirements of each position. So in addition to advertising at our local colleges and universities, we utilize platforms such as Indeed, LinkedIn, all of our internal media platforms as well. For the roles that are more specialized, we also target industry-specific publications. So if a position is a science-based position, we'll use Science Careers or more of those publications. Or if it's an HR recruitment, we'll use Society and SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management, or other relevant outlets related to that particular position. We are always ensuring that we're incorporating just the benefits of being a district employee, what makes this place a great place to work, highlighting our culture, competitive salary, and just the comprehensive benefit packages that we offer. These particular snapshots before you were used again for one of our management recruitments this year. And then the other one is a sample of all of the media platforms that we use from the districts, LinkedIn, Facebook, et cetera. So lastly, we really can't talk about our recruitment and retention efforts without talking about our culture. Really, our STAR culture, as you've seen, is integrated into everything that we do. It's in all processes. So from our initial screening, our oral exams, our interviews, through the onboarding process, we're taking into account into all of each steps. We ensure that there is the technical component is present, that we have exams or processes that will pull out a candidate's technical abilities. But we will prioritize a positive attitude and initiative once that is present and throughout the process in our hiring and promotional decisions. And we have this supported at all levels of leadership. We really have a supporting, engaged process, and we are very intentional with that. We often receive feedback from new employees regarding our STAR culture. We receive comments about why they continued in the process, how supported they feel, how welcome they feel. And we, again, really prioritize that we feel like that is our job to ensure that our candidates do feel supported throughout the entire process through onboarding. So really our retention success, our low turnover rates are tied to these STAR values and cultures that we make sure are present in the process. We have employees who are engaged and invested in our mission and want to contribute to the success that our organization offers. So as you can see, it's integrated in everything. We can't separate it. It's from the beginning of the process to our retention efforts. So with that concludes my presentation this morning.
Do we have any questions? Supervisor Robinson.
So I know some of my department heads, they'll have positions that are available, but they don't want to fill them right now, and they don't want to take them off the books because then they have to go through the formal process of putting them back on the books. I don't know if we have that here, but if we do, how is that handled? You just have to report it once a year, or?
It depends if I'm assuming that based on what you're saying is equivalent to one of our holding positions, which is not budgeted. So is it in the budget? Is it one of the budgeted positions? It might be a little different as to how we're handling it.
Yeah, like in our case, I think we have 1,600 positions and 1,300 of them are filled. So there are a few positions there, about 300 in our case, that they're full-time equivalent positions that a department head could utilize. They could fill it at any time and not have to go through the reinstatement process. I don't know if we have that here.
We don't. No, we don't do that here. We fill all of our funded positions. So there are some salary savings that are put in our budget, and I think most budgets probably have some level of salary savings. So we do have some level of projected and budgeted salary savings, but every funded position that we have is filled, and we work. Now you have turnover. Like throughout the year, you're kind of always striving to make, so there are some periods of time, where there's a vacancy and then it just takes whatever time it takes. And we're very rapid actually in filling our vacant positions. So you do have some periods where you have to open the recruitment, take application, but by the time you hire it, there was a period of time where maybe a position wasn't filled because you had a vacancy in that position. But we fill every budgeted position. We don't just hold positions like that.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Sheriff.
Yeah, just an observation. It looks like applicants might be better applying to an Ivy League school than for a job at the Air District. This will also be another metric for comparing this district to other districts, because presumably everybody's producing this report now, and it is. I think you're correct, and it's another way of looking at the STAR system as well as the general culture and work and mission-driven process we have here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to congratulate you on the report. It was very detailed with the openings and vacancies. But I just want to, if you can kind of tell us a little bit more about the STAR program. When did it start and how does it work? You guys have weekly meetings, monthly meetings, or how does it get the whole team together? Thank you.
That could be a long answer.
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually, I would invite the public to review a really good presentation that we provide. We provided every year now for several years at the governing board study sessions. If you go to our last November meeting, there's a really comprehensive presentation there that is a good resource, I think, for those that are looking at that work culture. But it's something that first of all, it's continuously evolving. So it's never frozen in time. And that's one thing that's why we take that program and our work culture to the board every year to actually talk about it. And we continually make enhancements to it. We add more dimension to it. And a lot of it's driven by staff. And that's one of the beauties of the work culture, is that a big component of it is suggestion process and the empowerment of staff and having them take ownership over the work and also improving the program itself. And so, but it's been around. It's about getting close to 20 years now, and it's in sort of its current nomenclature. It's called the STAR. We've had some versions of it before that, but and today's version is not the same as it was 20 years ago. It's not the same as it was 7 years ago, right? It's continuously improved. And it's called STAR, but I really just encourage, it's a great discussion. We have actually other resources available online as well that other agencies, for example, can use. It's not infrequent that I'm talking to other executives, whether it's a city or county, that may be interested in trying all or some of what we do here, whether it's hiring or empowerment programs. So, but it's got a rich history, and it just keeps getting better every year. It keeps getting it has to stay relevant. That's actually one of the things that I think makes it successful over time. Is continual review.
Yeah. It's also kind of like a retention tool.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, because one of the big factors in retention is having a highly motivated staff that feels like they're doing something relevant and that they take ownership in what they're doing, right? And so STAR is a great tool actually for achieving that level of morale and motivation. And when you achieve that, you end up with better retention numbers. So it's absolutely connected to retention.
Mm-hmm.
I've got one question and a comment. The first question is, how many hours of your time was taken up putting this together?
Well, I don't know that I want to quantify it, but I can also tell you, Morgan over here helped with developing the data, because there definitely took a significant amount of time gathering the data, putting it all together in a manner that we can present it in a way that makes sense, that we could get the numbers that we needed to look at our vacancy rates, our turnover rates. That was not an easy process to do. And to be honest, I think Morgan's Excel skills really helped me with that.
This is kind of one of those lowest common denominator deals, which we're not there. We're on the opposite end of it. And the insane asylum in Sacramento comes up with some of the goofiest deals that all they do is just, that's hours that you spent on something we know we're doing right. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I see no more questions. Are there any public comment?
I'll go online. I see no online comments. Do we have any comments in Fresno on this item? Seeing none. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments?
No public comments in Modesto.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Adriana. All right, we will move on to item 11, which is an action item. This is to approve the voluntary emission reduction agreement with Lost Hills Environmental LLC to mitigate air quality impacts.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Shookley and members of the board. Mark Montalongo, Director of Policy and Government Affairs. I'm going to present to you on a voluntary emission reduction agreement with Lost Hills Environmental LLC. For over 20 years, the VERA has been used as an innovative mitigation measure under CEQA as well as NEPA to reduce air quality impacts from development projects. Under this program, we've generated over $123 million, which has been invested in local emission reduction projects, generating of about 14,000 tons of emission reductions over the years. These agreements are designed to provide an enforceable tool for lead agencies to mitigate project emissions through the environmental review process, where developers implement on-site mitigation measures. VERAs then serve as an additional mitigation measure to complement other clean air measures to achieve additional emission reductions from development projects. These agreements are used to address air quality impacts from both construction and operational activities, as well as phases of a project. Your board's approval of any VERA assures proper mitigation of the air quality impacts are carried out, and in no way signify approval or endorsement of a development project by the district. So the approval discretion for a development project would rely with the lead agency. So under VERAs, developers provide pound for pound mitigation of their project emissions through a process that funds and implements emission reduction projects. Funds that are received by the district, they go into our highly successful grant incentive programs, where the district administers grants on behalf of developers. We use these funds and they are reinvested into the Valley and are awarded to Valley businesses, municipalities, residents to generate real emission reductions. These reductions are secured through VERAs, our surplus of existing rules. The emission reductions are cost effective, and we quantify and enforce these emission reductions that are generated by the VERA. Some of the grant programs that we place these funds are replacing old trucks with new low emission trucks, grants to businesses to electrify or replace existing diesel powered off-road equipment and ag tractors, just to name a few. The agreement before you today is for the Lost Hills composting project, which consists of the construction and operation for up to 640,000 tons per year of composting material. For this project, Kern County is the lead agency for the project under CEQA and prepared an environmental impact report and an addendum. The EIR required the project to fully mitigate their construction and operational related emissions of NOx, VOC, and PM10 to net zero. The estimated mitigation to be achieved under this agreement is about 204 tons of NOx, 16 tons of VOC, and 146 tons of PM10. And the estimated amount of mitigation funds under this agreement is approximately $3.5 million. The recommendation before you today is to approve the VERA with Lost Hills Environmental to receive the funds in the estimated amount of up to $3.5 million to mitigate air quality impacts from the project, and authorize staff to identify, fund, and manage emission reduction projects to mitigate the air quality impacts from the project. This concludes my presentation this morning, and I'll turn it back to the chair and the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. Do we have any questions for Mark this morning? Did you have one, Dr. Sheriff? Oh, there it is now. Okay, you may speak.
Seeing if you're paying attention.
I am.
Thanks. Thank you for the presentation. The VERAs are obviously really important as we look at, you know, how do we deal with a growing population and wanting industries to grow and settle here and more businesses and so on. But this is really key to getting continued healthful reductions in air pollution. How do we, it seems that it's much easier to calculate the construction impacts than potentially the operational impacts. And I'm wondering a little more insight in how we calculate those operational impacts. How long is that operation, and what other things are we depending on in terms of reductions over the years in those operational impacts?
Yeah, so the quantification of the emissions, obviously the project goes through the CEQA process. So those mitigations, those emissions are quantified and presented in the environmental document. So the emissions from operations that would take into account the off-road equipment that is used during operations, the vehicle trips that are associated with the hauling of material. And that's all presented in the EIR, where we look at it through the commenting review period to ensure the emissions are adequately quantified and presented in the EIR. We take that information, and once the EIR is approved and certified by Kern County, we then take that analysis and structure the VERA.
So for a project like this, I mean, is there assuming some lifetime of a project, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to calculate, for instance, the truck traffic you mentioned?
10 years.
Okay,
Once the project's operational, we assume it's operational for 10 years.
right. Well, I think last year we might have thought we knew something more about what truck emissions might look like in 5, 10 years. And now some of that's up in the air, so to speak. We have a way of looking back at these things, or
Maybe you can clarify your question so we can try to best answer it.
well, I think I'm presuming as we think about, for instance, the operational truck emissions, well, we're making assumptions about improvements in technology. We're making assumptions about turnover in fleet. We're making assumptions about the directions for emission standards.
Yeah, through the chair, perhaps I'll just attempt to answer it, and then hopefully it does. There's a lot, I think, in that question as far as complexity goes. But I think that to sum up, and maybe add a little bit more detail to what Mark said, when the county and we play a role in trying to review what's done, but when the county basically assesses the emissions from, say, construction or fleet emissions, right? There's going to be some hauling and other activities. They use the best models that are available today. Now, I think that yes, over time, especially with a lot, there are things in flux potentially, right? With different, I don't know, truck rules and things like that. I think over time those models may change. And then the question, I think, is what happens if they change? They haven't changed today. They're what they were when the project was assessed. I think that poses a kind of a major question for just in general. Like when you get permits and approvals, I mean, you basically base all that on the best available information at the time. So I don't know that there's really, as far as I understand it, like an ongoing sort of reassessment of like you kind of have to run with what you have. Now what does get looked at continually over time, one of the things about this agreement is that as emissions are generated and as projects are identified for mitigation, the goal here is to mitigate all of those emissions, right? And so that's the estimate, the up to 3.5 and the exact number in the agreement. But that number could change over time. If the project takes longer, for example, to build, as we look at projects, whether it's residential or heavy duty diesel or whatever it is that we use to try to mitigate those emissions, the contract is very clear that we would need sufficient funding to mitigate those emissions, and it could even go beyond that. But that is our estimate today, right? So I just to give a little bit more context to it, I would suspect it's going to take some time, probably years. This is just me just now forecasting a bit. It's going to take some time for any of these models to be. They're updated every so often. They're not updated very frequently, and I think that there's a lot of things that are kind of shaken out right now over the next several years. So at some point they will be updated, and at that time, when projects come through, hopefully it's reliant at that time on the best available information of whatever those models.
And the models that are being used for those calculations are coming from CARB? Or?
Correct. Yeah, those models are basically CARB's estimates for different, mobile sources, and those are also generally reviewed and approved by EPA as well, depending on the type of, like for on-road, for example, those models are CARB developed and EPA approved.
Right, Mayor Preciado.
Just a question, understanding that at the end, the county will be the one approving the permit if it happens. But looking at the, these facilities are also a part of solution to stop, burning from some farmers, right? So when we look at that, there's some compost facilities that have been overloaded, and sometimes keeping the material on piles creates smoking, sometimes pollution. As they, but these can also, when you look at it in that standpoint, with more facilities like that will also help reduce pollution by the less travel miles to those facilities, and also helping those other facilities reducing the smoke or fires in the facilities. Do you see a resemblance in that or any potential reduction?
Through the chair, it's kind of hard to answer that question. I'll just be very direct about that. In that, this is the board here is not reviewing or approving the project itself, including questions around what role it plays in the movement of composting material or no, I can just say generally though that there, as you did, it's an aerated static pile operation. So I'll just speak more generally. I think that's probably more of a question appropriate for the county and kind of part of the approval and management of the actual operation. But generally speaking, though, I think if you build a modern facility, in this case, it's going to be state of the art kind of composting operation. If you manage piles appropriately, and and there are requirements associated with management of piles, as well as operating, the windrows and all the rest that goes into a composting operation. The goal is to minimize and avoid actually what I think you're right is it is an issue that can happen when you have a lot of organic material at a facility. So that is something that I think needs to be very carefully looked at by the lead enforcement agency. In this case, it's everything from Cal Recycle to the county. And then, of course, we play some role in that in enforcing the air requirements that would be affiliated with that operation. But again, just to remind the board here about what is before you today, we're talking about fulfilling the county condition of mitigating the air impact of the project. In no way is this action in any way, shape, or form an endorsement or an approval of the actual project itself. Just want to be very clear about that, as Mark mentioned during his presentation.
So just so I'm clear, so what does $3.5 million buy Lost Hills Environmental LLC? It buys them a 10-year term and then they have to have a reassessment and another term? Is that how it works?
So yeah, that's a great question also. What it does is you take the emissions estimate of the project, the impact that Mark was talking about. We've estimated how much funding it would require to mitigate that amount. In this case, it's emissions projected over a 10-year period. We think we can achieve those reductions through a combination of replacement of heavy duty diesel equipment. And, there's a variety of projects that we have and probably a mix of projects that will achieve that. We have existing pipelines of projects, as you know, going back to an earlier presentation, we have a lot of grant programs that actually have a lot of demand in them. And so we can use that pipeline to basically achieve these reductions. And once you mitigate that impact, the project is mitigated. So we consider the project mitigated for the purpose of CEQA. That is the amount that the county has come up with as the impact of the project, and they're, as part of that process, voluntarily coming in to use us essentially as somebody that can achieve those reductions through our programs as the entity that can basically certify those reductions for them through that process. And it could require more funding, by the way, depending on timing, as I mentioned before. But that's an estimate that's in the agreement.
At the end of the term, what happens? They're mitigated, they're done, or they?
It's considered mitigated, yes. And I do want to note, by the way, just one last part of that is that in real life, that mitigation really continues or should continue, right? What you have, generally is, if you replace a tractor, for example, at a farm, the 10 years is kind of relevant because, we may have a contract, with that farmer to make sure that, we're understanding its use. First we verify that the old tractor was, scrapped and replaced, the new tractor was put into service. But over time, as you're making these transitions, the tractor doesn't disappear after 10 years. You're going to see continued benefit. And in fact, you're actually going to see other transitions going on at the same time. Probably what Dr. Scher is partly alluding to, these fleets, they don't only happen because of a contract or a term in an EIR. You see continued benefits of these types of projects over time. But for the purpose of quantification and for the purpose of, say, having an agreement with somebody, that's where the 10-year comes in.
Yeah, okay, I'm trying to help you answer that question. Okay, if they change anything down the road, they would have to get another conditional use permit, correct? Theoretically. And then they would have to get another VERA in order to offset anything else, correct? If it changes.
Yeah, if there
their-
was, yes, if there was an increase in emissions from a change.
Right.
And under that process,
Right.
there was a commitment to mitigate those emissions.
Right, then there'd
Then there
be
would be
new-
potentially another VERA. Yes,
Correct?
yes,
Yeah. And just following the money, they have to pay for it, correct?
correct.
And we get the money. Who
Uh,
gets the money?
Yes, if a similar arrangement was made where the entity wanted to work with the district to mitigate those
Right.
emissions, then yes, in that situation, we would receive the funding.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make that clear. I mean, been here a long time and seen quite a few different VERAs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were doing a good job, but just I'm not sure if they were quite understanding what you were telling them.
All right, thanks for the clarification, buddy. And we will move on to public comment.
Okay, is there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on this? Seeing none and none online. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments on this item?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comment?
No public comments in Modesto.
Further comments?
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion.
Pereira, move to approve.
Escutia Brayton,
Okay.
second.
Oh. Couch wants to make the motion, or did you have a comment, Supervisor?
I'll make the second, and I appreciate the staff's work on this. Thank you.
So we have Pereira and Couch. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Ms. Escutia Brayton. Aye. Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. McCauley,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez.
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner. Mr. Pereira,
I vote aye.
Mr. Preciado,
Yes.
Mr. Reyna,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs.
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen,
Yes.
Ms. Schicklian.
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
All right, thank you, folks. Thank you for the report, Mark. All right, our next item is Executive Director comments. Oh, wait, what'd I miss again? I better put my glasses on next month. All right, 12, verbal report on California Air Resources Board. I apologize,
No
Doctor.
worries, no worries. Yeah. I appreciate all of the engagement that has been happening offline with both the district and CARB and stakeholders. So I definitely look forward to continue to make sure that the Valley has as much clarity of what all is happening moving forward. And I think I'll leave it there for this month. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, Executive Director report.
Thank you. Just on that last note, I just wanted to extend appreciation on behalf of staff to Dr. Pacheco Warner for her role as the CARB a board member. In addition to the district board member, there is a long list of ongoing, I think, issues of shared interest at the local level with the district and CARB, and so she's continued to try to communicate, sort of different issues at the local level and create, forums for, trying to engage on those issues. So I appreciate that. And I just wanted to voice that on behalf of the staff here. And I want to also thank all the board members for joining us at the PepsiCo event last month. That was a really great kind of celebration, and just really cool to see another example of a local company just continuing to push the envelope when it comes to technology. And it was well attended by board members, and I think everybody, from what I could tell, had a really good time there, just kind of catching up on some of that work that's going on right here in our backyard. I also wanted to let the board know and the public that we continue to communicate and advocate along with other Valley stakeholders in Sacramento on different priorities. The state budget is one of those major priorities where we are continuing to push for more air quality funding in the budget. It is a difficult budget year again this year. So I think it comes to no surprise to everybody that it is a challenging year to advocate for those funds, but we do have a really strong case. And I do think that there is, it's resonating, I think, with our Valley delegation and others, the need to really show in the state budget that some of those dollars are going into programs at the ground level that actually produce an air quality benefit and a public health benefit. I think as you see a lot of the scrutiny over some of the various state revenue sources and how they're being spent, I think it would be a very wise move by the legislature and the governor to ensure that there's a strong allocation in the budget for programs like Farmer is one key example of that. So we're going to continue pushing on that, and we are also working on the federal level of policy and funding in advocating for ensuring that we have continued funding from the federal government. We do have some key programs, DERA, the Diesel Emission Reduction Act, the Targeted Airshed Grant, TAG, Federal 105 funding, and there's other funding sources that are really important to the work that we do. So we're going to continue to communicate those priorities. We're working with other agencies to make sure that happens. There's a lot going on the federal level. So as I'm sure everybody here is tracking very closely, I do have a meeting here very shortly with the new regional administrator. I want to make sure everybody was aware that Region 9 does have somebody appointed. His name is Josh Cook. And I look forward to meeting with him to communicate the Valley's priorities and the need for there to be strong engagement and collaboration between the Region 9 office and the San Joaquin Valley on air quality issues. So just wanted to note that. I also wanted to just last note here is mention that and I think Jamie alluded to this, but we are out at many different events. Spring outreach, spring is in the air. Hopefully your allergies are not are not flaring up too much. I did hear, from a lot of folks that allergies are definitely raging right now. But with spring comes a lot of outreach, a lot of, excitement over the, just being out, and there's a lot of community events that are going on. So if you have any other events that, you think we would be, useful to have us there, please just let me know. We're always looking for those opportunities. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Chair and board members, for any questions.
Do we have any governing board comments? Seeing none? Oh, good catch. Seeing none, our next meeting will be May 15th, and hope to see you all there.